everyone. So glad you could make it. So I wanted to start with a question. Where are you located and what's your favorite thing to do there? I'll go first. Feel free to chat it in or unmute yourself. So I live in a place called Lake in the Hills. It's near Chicago, Illinois. So number one, there's a lot of stuff to do in Chicago, right? And where I currently live, it's a lot more natural. So lucky for me, I get to live on top of a hill with a little water underneath, which is so cool. I love it here. We've been here like 5 years. And there's a place called Three Oaks Recreation Center that has canoeing, kayaking, and paddle boating. And it is a fun place to go, and the whole family can go. They got good parking, so that's one of my favorite things to do here. How about you? Where are you, and what do you like to do?
I've got Debbie wrote in that she's in Philly currently shoveling. LOL.
Oh no, sorry about that.
Then we got the extreme. We've got Karen down in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. Got somebody in Las Vegas, Terry. Michelle is in Western Maryland. And Greenwich, Connecticut for Leandra. Nice.
Oh, I think it's snowing, or I thought it was like bad storms in Connecticut too. How's that going, you guys?
Yeah, remember, everybody's unmuted, so feel free to jump in.
We're currently digging out, but in the summertime, we have a really nice.
Yeah, I hear that it's nice there, but yeah, like, you know, Chicago has only like, you know, 2 seasons, right? Summer or construction and winter and construction. So I hear you, and winters can be really rough. So feel free to keep chatting in and let me know, Jay, if you hear anything, you know, different or cool or crazy. We'll go ahead and move on. So I am so glad you're here today. We're focused on the nutrition coaching that sticks. Small changes, client ownership, and sustainable habits. So it's going to be a little bit different than regular nutrition. We want to talk about things that work for people. And let's keep it conversational. So you guys are my peers, and I want to talk to you and hear from you, right? Because we learn from each other. So make sure to chat it in or talk through it. We want to hear you. I want to know what's going on, and I want to know, you know, what you know, right? Otherwise, I'm not going to learn as much. So please share. And if, you know, we have no volunteers, you know, I'll be pointing at you. So make sure you volunteer and get ready. So a little bit of my background for those who don't know me. I've been a trainer for 12 years. I did my internship with the local big box gym, LA Fitness, through WITS. I thought it was a great program, right, to learn more stuff. And I also worked in a boutique gym for about a year. So LA Fitness was about 6 years. And of course, before 2020, before COVID, I was having clients that were virtual because they would travel a lot. So that's kind of how I started in virtual personal training. They would take me to their hotel gym or find a gym, and I would, you know, talk through the exercises through their headphones while they projected themselves on a phone so I could correct form, as well as so they could see form, you know, when I was sharing that with them. And then, of course, when the pandemic hit, everybody was ready to go virtual. And so right now I am doing virtual personal training and some in person. Recently, like, one of my clients reached out to me because he was in town, and we went in person. So that was fun to catch up and get back into in-person training. I also love the fact that I can do webinars with you guys. This is so exciting for me. I put together some awesome information, and I'm so excited to share this with you because my background is in learning and development, so I get to share things that are happening like in corporate as well as in training, which is, you know, a great combination. I'm passionate about career development, webinars are branding, executive presence, and leadership. And you guys are the leaders in training, right? So first poll question, Jay, please. I would like to know
Okay.
how many of you currently work with your clients on nutrition in some capacity? How many of you currently work with your clients on nutrition in some capacity?
Okay. It is flowing in. We'll take it up to 37 seconds and then we'll share it.
Sounds good. I'm checking it out. Cool.
Okay. Wow. We've got 38% regularly, 35% occasionally, 8% only when they ask, 19% not at all.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Hopefully the information that I provide to you today, you can kind of use as you need. I'm going to share a lot of resources that I created for you. And we're actually going to go straight into number 2, if that's okay with everyone. Poll, oops, there we go. Poll question number 2. How often do your clients ask for help with nutrition? So you may be interacting with them, and I'm interested to know, how many people do ask, and maybe currently you're not ready to talk about nutrition, right? So how often do your clients ask for help with nutrition? Poll number 2, please. There we go.
There we go.
Cool. And then I promise we won't have another poll for a few slides, okay?
They are flowing in good. That's great.
Okay.
68% have voted so far. Let's give it another 10 seconds and we will cover and close it.
Sounds good.
Oh
And if
yeah.
you,
Here we go. 46% occasionally, 8%
okay.
about half of my clients, 29% almost every client, 17% rarely.
Okay, so that means like about 80% of y'all do talk about or do get questions from your clients. So that's good. And then hopefully the rest of you guys, can work through this and put some of the information in there, hopefully, right? So hopefully this is good for you. So here's the agenda. We'll review the 4 pillars that drive transformation and longevity. Then we'll cover some nutrition on the fundamentals and what clients should be eating, discuss why nutrition advice fails. I'll share my habit-based progression model that I created for you. And then take a quick look at GLP-1 because we really, can't dismiss that, right? That's a trend and a lot of people are doing that. And then finally, we get to work with a client scenario that we can discuss, and hopefully this will help you figure out, how to work with your clients better. And if, you want more, just let Jay know. So we change lives, right? We change lives. Real transformation and long-term longevity are built on 4 pillars: quality sleep, consistent nutrition, strength training, and cardiovascular conditioning. When those are all in place, everything else becomes easier. Body composition improves, energy improves, recovery improves, confidence improves, and our lives improve. Our job is to guide clients and help them strengthen these 4 pillars safely, sustainably, and confidently. Today, we're going to focus on nutrition. More specifically, we will focus on how small strategic changes build habits that stick and create client buy-in. When clients actively participate in their own journey, they develop ownership, accountability, and lasting growth. So why is it important to talk about nutrition? Well, clients already trust us. And exercise does not exist in isolation. Sleep, nutrition, strength, and cardiovascular conditioning all work together, and one pillar is weak, the others are affected as well. When we help clients improve even one small nutrition behavior, their training results improve. Recovery improves, energy improves, consistency improves. The key is to share evidence-based fundamentals and coach sustainable habits. When we combine movement coaching with fundamental nutrition guidance, we become their go-to wellness advocate. All right, now we have poll 3. This will be the last poll. Question is, when clients struggle with nutrition, what do you think is the biggest barrier? Clients struggle with nutrition, what do you think is the biggest barrier? What have you found?
All right.
And I would love to hear from somebody. So be ready to volunteer. What is the biggest struggle with nutrition that you've seen that you think is the biggest barrier? So share with me. So gather your thoughts.
I'll
And
share. This is Leandra. This is Leandra in Greenwich, Connecticut. I put overwhelmed. I feel like we have so much information at our fingertips nowadays, and sometimes customers our clients, well, they are our customers too. They don't necessarily always know how to stratify that information and align it with their own personal needs. I deal with the active, aging clientele out here. So a lot of folks are like in their 40s up to like probably mid 60s, late 70s, and so they have access to all the good food. They have access to the great trainers, but again, they have access to so many things. They don't know where to start. So it's either do all the things or do nothing. So they get overwhelmed and then they don't do anything. So they
yeah,
come when they by the time they come to me, they're just looking at how can I break this off into bite-sized pieces so I can get some momentum going.
absolutely. I love that. I love that. So how do you share with us? Like, how do you start them off? How do you guide them?
Oftentimes, when I don't start with nutrition sometimes, or I do start with nutrition. So it's kind of like I just have them write down whatever they're eating. Just write it down, no judgment. Just tell me what you're eating so I can see where the data is, where the trend is at, right? And then I look for what's the low hanging fruit that they can do that will make them feel really good and then could possibly also get them some really huge bang for their buck. So for instance, if for all intents of speaking, like a scenario where I see someone is eating some type of sugary snack later in the day, every day, right? I'm out, I'll say, hey, what's going on? Where you at? Oh, they'll start telling me at things, and then I'll look at their journal and I see they're not really eating enough protein and or fiber, carbohydrates in the morning. So what's happening is they're crashing at the end of the day, so they're going for the sugar. And I don't get all into the details like that, but I just give them an actionable task that they can do, and then when they do it and they see that improvement, then they feel like, oh wow, I can do this. So not only have they gotten some big bang for their buck, but then I've also gotten their trust as well. I said a
Yeah.
lot, but hopefully I answered your question.
Oh, absolutely. I think you wrote the course. So I didn't realize you wrote this for me, but yes, absolutely, 100%. I love your approach, and hopefully the tools that I'll give you guys will make that easier for you. But it looks like you already got a huge start, and that's the way you're going. So I love that. I love that. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Can I add something? Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, I tried to say before, I'm in New York, buried in about 25 inches of snow. But other than that, and howling winds, I just wanted to mention just something to keep in mind. Maybe is I work with people who have Parkinson's disease
Mm,
and other kinds of chronic disease. And that's that's out of my scope in a sense. But at the same time, we do talk about nutrition. It's just very hard to stick. I mean, every one of these answers, A, B, C, D, E, apply. And so when you work with special populations, if you will, some of this, resonates, some of it doesn't, but nutrition is always a useful thing to discuss. Whether they want to or not, that's their choice. Right? Thanks.
True. True. You can only share, and hopefully they'll, pick up on some things, right? And then I think, as they develop trust with you and, they want more, they want to make changes, then they're ready to do it. Sometimes they're not ready for those changes, right? And we could just kind of support them and share with them so that when they're ready, they know that you're there for them to help them. Oh, very good. Thank you guys both. I love it. I love it. And yes, we should all talk about nutrition. I've been trying to talk to my family about nutrition, and I think that's the hardest. So let's start with basics. Let's just talk a little bit about that, because as I was developing this program, I'm like, wait a minute, we have to level set, right? I don't know where everybody's at. It could be like, they could be advanced, they're already doing it, or, it's completely new. So I just wanted to.
Excuse me, I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
I think it's important also to just clarify with people what their goals are before you even start.
Absolutely. Who was that?
This is Lee Freeland in Michigan.
Lee Freeman. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you have to know what their goals are. Otherwise, you're just kind of shooting in the dark. So thank you for that reminder. I love it. I love it. So we're just going to go over it real quick because I'm not sure where everyone is, and I want to make sure we have, we level set, right? So it's like, what do clients eat? What does anybody eat? So we just want to kind of like level set. We're talking about lean proteins, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, healthy fats, including plant-based fats. Some people just say to eat plant-based fats. So there's a lot of information out there. And yeah, absolutely, it can be overwhelming. And, we also need a lot of water, right? We need a good amount of water because our bodies are more than 50% water. So we have to make sure we're hydrating. And hydration alone can influence energy, performance, recovery, and even appetite regulation. Like if you feel hydrated, you really can't, or if your, hydration is bad, or if you're dehydrated, I should say, everything, kind of falls, right? I've passed out from dehydration. That's another story. So research on the blue zone, the region where there is the most centenarians, shows certain patterns, as well as different cultures and different diets, right? So they focus on whole foods, mostly plants, moderate portions, legumes, whole grains, and minimal amounts of ultra-processed foods, right? So those are some of the keys that we want to, hone in on. Portions. Oftentimes with portions and tracking and things like that, people get, oh my gosh, it's so much. How am I going to weigh everything, right? So we're going to keep it simple. We're going to keep it simple. So we're going to share with them, how to do it so they don't have to like measure all the time, right? It's the hand portions, which are simple, right? Your hand goes with you everywhere. So the no excuses, right? You can't go to the restaurant and go, I didn't have my hand. So in general, you want to have like one palm. This is a portion of protein for your body. A fifth is a portion of vegetables for your body, as well as this is carbohydrates, right? And I've heard that it should not be, really full, right? Carbohydrates, we want to keep it low. For me, it would be like a quarter of a cup. And then we have thumb-sized fats. And that's a good basic measure of what amounts of food we should be eating, right? So it makes it a little bit easier, hopefully. And then the next question would be, what should we be eating per meal? Yeah, how much am I supposed to be eating, right? That's another big question. And again, we're trying to keep it simple. So if you look at the little chart I created for you, most adults, 1 palm of protein in a meal, as well as 1 to 2 vegetables. And I actually like to eat like, 2+ servings, right? As well as just carbohydrates, palm sized or fist, whatever that is, the hand size, in the picture, you want to have a little bit of carbohydrates and then some fat. So if you look at the muscle gain, people who want to gain muscle, right? I know, I think it was Lee that mentioned goals. It's like you want to know what goals they have, right? If their focus is on muscle gain, then in general, you want to have 1 to 2 portions of protein, 1 to 2 vegetable portions, 1 to 2 carbohydrates, and then a little bit of fat, right? We're not like doing a lot of fat on all of these different ways of eating. And then fat loss. You got the protein, and then you have the vegetables, and then check it out, right? 0 to 1 servings of carbohydrates, as well as fats, right? And then of course, snacks are optional. And with any of this, depending on what their journal looks like, right? If you've talked to them, and I'm going to give you a questionnaire that you can talk to them about or with, then you're going to figure out like, how are they eating now, right? Because we have to identify what's going on now. And then we can adjust slowly, right? You don't want to give somebody who hasn't had any vegetables like 4 cups of veggies in a sitting, because that's not going to go well. So you want to gradually change things, right? Even for, any stage that they're at. So we want to make sure we anchor on proteins and vegetables. So if you take anything out of this class, make sure you take note, protein and vegetables are going to be really important, right? I feel like a lot of people don't have enough protein or vegetable. And this is just a really high impact and low complexity upgrade that we can do as we look at their goals, as we look at their journal, right? We are not doing it in a vacuum. As you may know, protein supports muscle growth, recovery, satiety, and body composition, and it helps clients maintain lean muscle, especially as they age, right? We talked about the aging population, right? So that's, we know things decline, so we want to keep it up. Vegetables provide fiber, micronutrients, volume, and support gut health. So they improve fullness and increase nutrient density without excessive calories. So instead of overhauling their whole list of foods that they eat on a regular basis, you can add proteins or vegetables to make a big impact. So here's an example. I have a client who said that her husband cooks and she just wanted to add some vegetables, right? She just had a simple request. So I said, hey, just go ahead and, put some broccoli in a ceramic container with a lid, and you can just microwave it for like a few minutes. You don't even have to add anything. So that's what's so simple and easy about that type of approach, because then you can keep it simple and healthy. And that's kind of what we're trying to do, make it easy for everyone. It doesn't have to be so complicated. And with non-starchy vegetables, most people can have unlimited amounts, as long as it's not prepared with too much fat. So protein and veggies are the anchor that can help improve energy, recovery, and consistency. So what are the healthy veggies, right? Greener and more colorful the plate, the more nutrient dense it tends to be. Eat the rainbow, right? And so on the left side, those are the non-starchy vegetables. Encourage freely as long as they're prepared without too much oil. And on the right side, you have the starchier vegetables. These are fine, and they're just higher in carbohydrates, so they count more like carb portions. And that's why we're suggesting that they don't eat those as freely because they're higher in carbs. I'm sure many of you guys have heard of GLP medications, and some people are not sure about how that's going to affect, what we do, right? So if someone is on GLP, I believe there is an opportunity for us. And these medications reduce appetite and are prescribed along with reduced calorie eating and physical activity, right? They might not think about that. Clients might not think about that, and we may or may not know that, but that's what the doctors normally, suggest. I actually have a client who just started GLP, and I said, hey, what did the doctor say? And she said, well, to start on it, and then it would reduce my appetite, and I should continue to work out. Okay, sounds good. So research, shows that we need to, help them continue to train, right? So research shows that you need to train. You can't just do it on losing fat by reduced appetite. So when they do lose weight or significant weight, they still have to prioritize protein and resistance training because muscle mass can decline with fat. And so that impacts metabolism, strength, bone density, and long-term health. Research shows that weight loss on GLP includes both fat and lean muscle mass, particularly without adequate protein intake and structured resistance training. Did you hear that? So especially if they're not having enough protein and structured resistance training. That's where we come in, right? That's where we can help them. So if they're not changing those habits, then they will most likely gain the weight. So just wanted to make sure we were all aware of that, right?
Quick question
So
too. I have here from Martha. Are you including fruits with vegetables? I'm assuming that was probably about 2 minutes ago. I was trying to sneak it in.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. So when we're talking about vegetables or fruits, they're higher in carbohydrates, right? So they have micronutrients, so they're good for you. And so something like that you might want to do earlier in the day, right? Because it's got some sugar. You may want to, or higher in sugar, I should say. It does have fiber, so I'm not saying to not eat it. I'm saying adjust it so you may have it earlier in the day or maybe before a workout. So timing is important. And so specifically with fruits, they're not lumped in with, the non-starchy vegetables. I guess I would kind of lump it more closely with the starchy vegetables, right? And then if you do it earlier in the day, like yogurt and fruit, maybe in the morning, then you can use up those carbohydrates. I hope that answered your question.
Good.
All right, so basically we're partnering with medical providers, right? And that's what I suggest to my client, right? Make sure you see them, let me know what's going on so that we could kind of partner together. So the medical providers manage the medication, we manage strength, the structure that's behind supporting them, muscle preservation, and sustainability. So that's what we're helping them with. And I will be providing information in a resource guide in case you want to dig a little bit deeper. So whether it's medication or dieting, weight loss can happen, which is good, right? But sustainability does not automatically happen. And that leads us to the bigger question. Why does most nutrition advice fail in the first place? I think some of you all had mentioned earlier in the polls, that they have some, sometimes it's overwhelming, they don't know where to start, and that's where we're here to help them, right? This is how we're going to guide them. Some of the things, too many changes at once, right? Overwhelm, right? Clients try to overhaul everything on Monday, new diet, new workout, new rules that level change that level of change is rarely sustainable. Can anyone relate? I've done that. And second, all or nothing thinking. I think that was mentioned earlier. One-off, planning meals turns into, I already messed up this week. Forget it. It's ruined. What's the point? Consistency gets replaced with extremes, right? Forget it. I'm not doing anything else. And lack of ownership. The plan was handed to them. They did not choose it. When clients do not participate in the decision making, then adherence drops. And low confidence, right? If it's not working, how's it going to work, right? Many have tried extreme approaches, yo-yo diets, and they've failed. So what's the point in going on with this? Some clients look for quick solutions, including medication, hoping it will fix everything, but sustainable health always includes new habits. You can't do the same old thing and expect changes. Most nutrition advice gives information, a lot of information sometimes, right? But no structure around it. And sustainable transformation is built on consistent behavior, change that turns into habits. And that's where we're here to guide and help them. Hopefully this is a simple model for you. This was based on an agile model. And we can look at, hopefully making it easier for you and your clients. Again, most nutrition advice fails because we have no structure. Here, what my doctor was saying when I initially started to get healthier, I asked my doctor, hey, because she said, I was overweight, and she's like, you need to lose some weight. Okay, and how can I do that? And she said to me, exercise and eat right. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, so that doesn't work. What am I supposed to be doing, right? I don't know. So for us as trainers, we want to help them understand as well as manage and give them structure and support. So here's the habit-based progression model I created for you. And I'm going to give you a questionnaire afterwards. You can either talk to your clients through it, or you can send it to them and they can fill it out. Either one, or if they have a journal, right? Whatever works for you. We just want to cover some basic information, and I'll show that to you in a minute. We just want to observe what's going on, right? Looking at their patterns, are they doing something late at night, right? What are they doing? What are they eating? So we're just looking for patterns. That's the first thing, right? You have the information, the assessment, then they identify, or you identify what's going on, and then look at the content or look at their information and identify the most impactful change. One change that can create the biggest ripple effect. I think it was mentioned earlier. And do not fix everything, because people are not ready to change everything all at once. That normally just doesn't work. And then choices, you're going to give them some options. Let the client choose. Come up with some ideas and share it with the client and say, hey, what do you think? Can you, what would work for you? What can you implement on a regular basis, right? So that you have buy-in from the client, right? They're making this choice and they're part of their own transformation journey. Not everybody does that, and you want them to do that, right? Because then they have more skin in the game and they want to do it, hopefully, right? So then they take the information, or you give them the information, and then they take it home and then they try it, right? They give it a shot. Oh, I'm going to add more protein. I'm going to add more fruit and yogurt in the morning, whatever it is, you gave them choices, they picked that one. So then they try it for 7 to 14 days, building consistency. And then you review the information, right? You evaluate and reinforce during sessions or check-ins or however you do that. And if yes, they are successful at that small change, then you can increase or add another small habit. small habit, right? Not huge changes. And if no, modify the timing, the format, the scale, whatever it is. Maybe that's not working for them because they hate yogurt. Whatever it is, like kind of tweak it, check it out, tweak it. You're there to support them. So then if they do well, then you can progress it to the next level, right? So you just kind of want to go through this cycle. You assess, you identify, you give them some choices, they practice, then you review it, and then you adjust it, and then you assess that again in another week or two, right? So then it's happening live and it's happening all the time, and they're staying consistent, right? When they start feeling comfortable, then they will succeed, and then you can help them get something, add something different. And the confidence builds more, they'll want to do more, right? Because, oh, I was successful. I was able to add veggies to my diet. And then you can see how that's helping their data points too, right? Whether it's weight or more muscle, whatever they're trying to do with their goals, we can take a look at it. So let me know if there's any questions. We're going to go on to a specific one, and we can kind of talk about that. So as I mentioned, I'll send you the questionnaire so you can look at it and play around with this. And I would love to ask somebody to jump in. Before giving you the answer keys, I want you to jump in, okay? So people, get ready to talk. So here's our client here. Maria, she's like 40, and does she have any medical conditions? High triglycerides and borderline pre-diabetic. We want to save her, right? And is she working with a client or a physician or registered dietitian? Yes, she's working with a doctor. Yes, she is taking medication. She's on GLP-1 medication. And so, if they say yes, you want to encourage them to continue to collaborate with their doctor or whoever the provider is. And you tell them, hey, the next time you get a checkup, let me know how it's going. I want to hear what's going on, okay? So I can better help you, right? We want to make sure that communication is coming back to us so we know how to adjust things, right? So make sure you keep that communication line open so that the doctors can help you and you can help the clients, right? We want to partner and collaborate so we can have a happy client. Goals and priorities. Y'all mentioned that earlier. So what is her current nutrition goal? She wants to lose 25 pounds, lower her triglycerides, and have more energy. And what's most challenging for her habit? What's she eating or what's going on with her that's, possibly affecting her goals, right? Evenings and late night snacking. And then what does success look like, right? We want to get a picture. It's like they could have a goal, but what does success look like to them, right? It may or may not be, make sense, right? So we want to make sure we're kind of all in line with what their goals are and what they're picturing so we can use that information to help create the program for them. She wants to lose 15, 20 pounds, improve labs, more consistent eating. So what is her current eating pattern? She has a couple of meals a day, lunch at 1, dinner around 8. How often do you cook at home? 1 to 2 times per week. How often do you eat out or order takeout? 3 to 5 times a week. And do you follow any eating patterns? She had done low carb previously. Walk me through a typical day of food and beverages. Coffee with cream for breakfast, salad with not much protein, dinner, large pasta dish or takeout, and snacks, wine and snacks in the evening. And then hydration and beverages. Approximately how much water? 2 to 4 cups. What do you drink? Coffee in the morning and wine at night. And about how much alcohol do you drink per week? About 8+ drinks. Okay. And eating and behavior patterns. So yeah, we're not going to judge. I'm just kind of like poking fun at it. Okay. So we're not going to judge. When they have it in front of us, we're just going to take it seriously and support them. right? We're not judging, we're just kind of looking at the patterns. Eating and behavior patterns. She usually eats because of stress, boredom, routine, late night craving. Some people don't even know that, right? So they may or may not answer that. And you can use that to ask them some more specific questions, right? Sometimes it might be easier for you to ask additional questions and get that information out, right? Because that's not always apparent for everyone. Are there certain situations that make eating well harder? Evenings after work, stress, fatigue. I know, like for some people, it's social eating, right? Because they have to go out and eat and certain things are available, right? So how do you handle that? Meal planning and structure. This person is not meal prepping ahead. And number two is like, what makes eating well easier for you when the meals are planned? So, okay, interesting, right? And what makes eating well harder for you? Time, stress, evenings. What does healthy eating look like to you? No carbs, no sugar. Okay, is that enough? Is that appropriate? That's what you're gonna help her with. Previous attempts, low carb diet, lost 10 pounds initially, felt restrictive, gained 15 pounds back. Oops. So, you know, additional information, I feel frustrated and inconsistent. And the last question I have there is like, how can I support you? And she might say, you know, help me stay consistent or give me exactly what, you know, I need to do, right? So I'm gonna hand it over to you guys. I want some ideas for those of you who's had some practice, and then feel free to give me some questions and then we'll look at the answer key after that. What are your thoughts on this? And what can we do, like, you know, what can we do easily and quickly to make a big impact for this person?
So I think first off, this is Michelle. I mean, her water, right, really needs to be, it's a simple change, but her water intake needs to increase.
Love it. Thank you.
Hi, this is Karen. Sorry, I lost my voice, but I would do a couple different things with her. The first thing I would talk about is the importance of maybe increasing her to 3 meals a day, and that might help her with her regimen and her eating pattern, just because it looks like she's not eating till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So her whole program is kind of off for her work day. Maybe discussing when she works out and what's the best time for her. I would highly recommend that this individual work out in the evening time because she has a lot of boredom after work. And instead of sitting down and having a glass of wine, maybe she should get into fitness classes. I would highly recommend, just because it's very social. It would be something good for her to be a part of and kind of get her away from that habit of sitting down and having a glass of wine every night. It should be more of a reward for her, and try and talk to her about let's try and just decrease that to maybe just the weekends. Let's start very slow instead of saying no alcohol at all for 30 days. Some people can't do that. So instead saying, you know, let's try and on, you know, school nights or work nights, not drinking, and just reward yourself on the weekends for, you know, a job well done, and try and start with that. I think those are the really important things that I would hit right away. And then of course, diving into takeout and meal prep. I think meal prep is something that, you know, that would help her with a lot of her boredom too. Like I love to meal prep on Sundays. And I've done it with some of my clients virtually. We'll meal prep together and we'll talk about different things that we do. So I think that that's really good. And maybe that's something that she needs, is somebody kind of there with her, because sometimes people just don't know where to begin. So, but I think that they're easy little fixes. She just needs a little push in the right direction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that, Karen. Very nice. I love it. I love that you came up with, fitness classes at night. So
Yes.
she's not bored. I love that. So, you're kind of like working at all different angles and you're hitting on the part that, is most impactful. So I love that. I love that. Anyone else?
I had one more to add. This is Leandra. I noticed that she drinks coffee with creamer. And one thing I learned is for people who aren't breakfast people, if you can replace the creamer with a little protein powder, it gives you the creaminess of the coffee, but you're getting an actual impact of protein. And then it also starts to get their body acclimated to getting fueled in the morning. Because sometimes people just don't feel hungry in the morning, so they don't eat. But if you start introducing that protein into their coffee, they'll get used to getting that feeling of fullness or whatever. So when they don't get it, then they're like, okay, my body wants it now. And so you can start to expand on getting to them to eat. But I also find that sometimes people don't necessarily, we live in a culture where people don't eat a lot of meals, but what they do is do a lot of snacking. So if you can help build a client to build in quality snacks, sometimes it takes the pressure off the quote unquote meal planning or meal prepping, because if they have snacks that they can readily access that have all of the nutritional mini meals, right?
Mhm.
Qualifications of the mini meals that you would want them to have, sometimes it's easier to segue them into the more intentional snacking with the macronutrients built into it, and then that will get them into the mode of the meal prep or bigger meals.
Yes, yes. I love that, Leandra. I love that. I like the idea of the snacking because, snacking is a meal, right? We just maybe have smaller portions. And like you said, with cultures, some cultures don't have, specific meals throughout the day and they may, rely on snacking, and having healthy snacks or healthier snacks is definitely a great way to do it.
Hi,
So,
this is Lisa.
hi.
Hi. I was just looking over this again while people were talking. I don't think I heard anybody say this, but I'm just noticing she doesn't really seem to have healthy fats.
Mm,
And to me, that would be the first thing I would emphasize. Um, the salad with minimal protein. She could use avocado or olive oil, a lot of olive oil to I would add olive oil and an avocado or another fat that she likes, nuts or and my opinion is at dinner that large pasta dish
mm,
is probably triggering her to want more carbs.
mm.
So
Right.
even if she balanced and had a small pasta dish and try to think of what would change the almost like the glycemic, I'm trying to think, is it load maybe, balancing it with like a protein, she
Mm-hmm.
might get that spike with the pasta. So not
Right.
cut out the pasta, but just add a protein or something else with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Lisa. I love that. I love that, you're thinking about it with oils because we didn't specifically mention that. Absolutely. And then, maybe a smaller portion of that pasta and then adding protein so they're not as hungry, right? So I love
Right.
that idea. I love balancing the protein with other foods as well as the fats. So that's awesome. I love it. So let's go ahead and just take a look at some of the things, right? We discussed a lot of it. I love that you guys are participating. It makes it so much fun for me because I know you guys are there and thinking, which is awesome. So just some of the things, and I may have missed some stuff too, right? So when you're looking at someone's assessment, you can kind of think about protein, right? You talked about protein, and then you can think about, where are the veggies missing, right? So for me to feel full, I like to eat like a ton of veggies, like broccoli, cabbage, um, cauliflower. Those are like things that I eat all the time. So I have that at hand. So I don't have to, eat like, all this pasta. I can just have a little pasta, a little veggie, or a lot of veggie, and then have the protein, right? So those are all good things. Hydration, someone talked about water, right? Is she having enough water? And you know, maybe we cut out some alcohol till the weekend, right? All the stuff you guys were talking about. And then planning gaps, right? I love that one of y'all was doing virtual food prep with your clients, right? I know, like, I've talked to clients and they've said, oh, I would love to have a class on cooking and letting me know why the nutrition is important in that food, right? So that opens up, you know, constant or engaging communication, as well as you guys helping each other. And then, you know, all you have to do is show them what you're doing, that you're going to do already anyway. So I love that idea. And then we didn't specifically talk about all or nothing. And I think we're moving towards, you know, a little bit less extreme, right? A little bit more specific on that goal and specific on what we're doing. So we're not doing overhauling everything all at once. So I love that. Yeah, we don't want to fix everything at once. We're just looking for, you know, what small changes can we make to help them change their current habits so that we're going towards their goals. So high impact items, we've talked about breakfast, right? Breakfast, protein in the coffee. Wow, I didn't think about that one. And so, you know, protein at coffee or protein at breakfast, adding vegetables at dinner, you know, or protein, right? Drinking 16 ounces of water upon waking. If you're not having enough water, maybe you should add some more water. Replacing one evening snack with a protein option, plan one meal ahead per week, just making small changes, not doing everything all at once. And then we look at it in 7 to 14 days. And we can talk to them, right? When I talk to my clients, you know, who are working on nutrition, I talk to them every time I train them, right? On average, I train people like twice a week, right? So that's a touch point. It's like, how's that going? And then, you know, what can we tweak, right? So those are things that we can make sure that we stay in contact with. So we build those habits, we have the accountability, and we don't forget about it. None of us do. And then you don't want to leave them guessing. You want to give them some choices and guide them, right? I notice breakfast is usually just coffee. How about adding some protein with a creamer, right? Or Greek yogurt or a protein shake or eggs 3 times per morning. It doesn't have to be every day. It's just, you know, getting those habits started. This way, you know, they have a choice and they choose it, right? So they have skin in the game. So then they're interested in doing it a little bit more than if it was just, here's a whole list of foods you're supposed to eat and not eat. What? You know, this is easier to adhere to. And then this builds confidence because they did it. I added more veggies or I added more protein and I feel better, right? Because you want to look at their energy levels as well. And then we want to help them tweak it as needed and check in, as I had mentioned. And then if they're successful, add another small habit or increase the challenge, right? You can mix it up. If they're inconsistent, then you change the timing, format, portion, or scale, then continue. You don't abandon the whole process because they don't work once, right? Refine it, make it better, make it, you know, a different choice. Whatever you have to do to keep them engaged and help them make some big impacts. So things to remember, you know, start with proteins and vegetables, aim for protein and vegetables most meals. Use those hand portions because those are easy, right? And increase vegetable before you make major changes. That's a rule of thumb. You can go there, but if somebody has some other things going on, like they're lacking protein, that might be better for you, right? Or they're lacking fat, that might be a better starting point. Anyway, it's cool as long as it's helping them and it's helping them meet their goals and it's safe, right? I mean, we know that. So you want to do that. And then we're doing small changes that can build habits. We're not changing everything all at once. And then if, you know, someone's on medicine, you want to still help them with strength training and then still guide them with nutrition, right? Because they're going to be eating a lot less if they're on GLP, right? So we want to make sure they're eating the right foods as often as possible. As we've discussed, most people, you know, sometimes they're overwhelmed with information. So we want to guide them. We want to give them the structure, create ownership, and build sustainable moments or momentum that turns into habits, right? So that they can be healthy longer. Did anyone want to add before I move on to the key takeaways?
Hi, this is Debbie. Can you hear me?
Yes, Debbie.
Hi. I just had a little bit of a different perspective or an alternative if some of the suggestions are made to someone who, I mean, I'm of the mindset there's many different eating styles that can be successful. And I would just say don't get stuck on adding the breakfast per se. I would focus on if that works for her because if it works for her to skip breakfast, to focus on feast well at your other meals. This is my perspective, not saying it right or wrong, but if it is working for her, I think it's important to get her to focus on healthy feasting well on her other meals. And I would just add another little comment about frequent snacking. If the person is trying to lose weight, that every time you put food in your mouth, that insulin will increase. And so we don't want to increase insulin often if someone's goal is to lose like 25 pounds. Now, if that works for her where she isn't going to eat well, and that's a real help for her, obviously, that's a better option for her to eat less, smaller meals throughout the day. Obviously, that's a better option if she will choose healthy choices. But I'm just saying if the client is such that like, I'm going to do intermittent fasting, okay, well, let's see what we can do. If that's really what you want to do, to just find an alternative to working with what their desire is in terms of their pattern of eating. Because I have had people that do all different things, and you really do, from vegan to fasting to whatever. You just have to find something that works, and they'll get their nutrition somehow. That's your goal.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You are totally right, Debbie. Intermittent fasting works for a lot of people. I've tried it. I've done keto. I've done vegan. I've done all kinds of different things to see like what it does to my body, right? It's just fun for me, and I look at the data points. And absolutely, some, other people will have different ideas what works for them, right? So intermittent fasting, and if they're eating healthy, quote unquote, healthy, and that's working for them, cool. But what if it's not? What if they're just doing like meat? What if they're just eating meat and that's all they're doing, right? And they're intermittent fasting. So there's a point, right? It's like they're eating, in a 6-hour window and they're just eating meat. Well, most of the times, when people talk about food, they talk about a variety of food, right? So, and I feel like eating meat all the time only is probably not a good idea. So, maybe add some veggies. So yeah, absolutely. You got to look at, how they're, what they're doing right now and what is working. And, just talk about some of the healthier options, right? I'm going to give you a list of resources with the nutrition and things like that in case you want to dig deeper. So, it gives you an idea of like, where to start, right? If they're intermittent fasting, it could be something a little different. It could look a little different. And we just want to share with them what is generally healthy and what they can change because they want to, they have different goals that they're currently not meeting. So I love that. Thank you for your participation. We're almost to the end of the class. Key takeaways. Nutrition doesn't have to be complicated. It just needs to be simple. Start with the basics, anchor with proteins and vegetables, structure the process, layer habits slowly. We are not prescribing diets. We are just helping them build a sustainable system. And sustainable systems create long-term transformation, and hopefully it helps meet the client's needs. Are there any questions? It's 2 o'clock or it's 3 o'clock Eastern. So we're at the end. Quick question, contact information, feel free to reach out, look at the information again, and I will send you resources with Jay in a little bit.
That is beautiful. Nice, son, because I know everybody's got different schedules, different things they got to meet. I'll just share that if you haven't done so already, Thursday, the program design Association group has their Ask Me Anything for Ashley. If you've attended any of her workshops, webinars over the past, you know she is like Sun. She has a wealth of information to share. Hers is going to be primarily on business and programming, so specifically. So if you haven't signed up for it, please do. If you need to reach out to me to get that link again, it was in your newsletters, but I will gladly send it to you. Sun, thank you for your beautiful breakdown, flow of everything. Everybody, the participation was wonderful. That's what makes this thing really, really come out and bloom. So I appreciate everybody. Have a great day. And thank you all. Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.